My name is Jancy McPhee, and we are here to talk about the following topic: engaging the public in Mars exploration by integrating science and engineering with the arts. And the really cool thing about this is that there's a lot of agreement in this session, and actually in some of the previous sessions, in some of the points that I'm going to make. So I think this is a very receptive group to some of the specific ideas and the general ideas that we're going to be talking about today. So this is sort of preaching to the choir. We know that there are a lot of challenges to the future of Mars exploration, and they range everything from obviously the science and technology that has to evolve to the actual challenges of the mission. Where do we go first? How do we do it? How long is it going to take to get there? How long should we stay? Do we have enough money? Will we be spending it well? And what's the grand scheme? What are we going to do there 5 years from now, 10, 20, 100, 200, we heard earlier today? And are we going to have the kind of support that we need to carry this out? So I would like to argue that at least some of that support can be gained if we do a better job with public engagement. So that's really what this is talking about. We're going to need that technological and scientific innovation and forward planning, but we also, frankly, just need support. So I'd like to argue that we need to talk about the how we're going to get there. We need to engage the public in exactly how we're going to do this, why it's going to take so long, why we need their patience, why it's such a complicated task, the interesting things that we're going to do there, and all of those important things sustain their engagement and give them frequent reasons to stay engaged. But we also need to relay to them the why. Why are we going there? And there are a lot of whys. We've talked about some of them already. It's the benefits that we can have back down here to Earth. It's the benefits to humanity. It's the technological development. And frankly, there's a lot of philosophical and emotional why as well. We're going to have to ask ourselves a lot of very important questions. How do we represent ourselves as the human race as we go further into space, and perhaps less as this discipline versus that discipline, this nation against that nation? And also, we're going to have to realize that we are just a creature that needs to explore. It starts in infancy and it never goes away. So we have a lot of instances already where we see that effective public engagement can be very powerful, some of them very close to our science. Apollo is a fantastic example. Everybody remembers the speech given by Kennedy. Everybody remembers the boot print in the lunar soil. In more recent times, we have from the Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield singing Space Oddity aboard the ISS, getting everyone to be thinking about the ISS. We've got a lot of really great engagement with Curiosity. Most recently, they had a game that they put out that everybody could play. From the European Space Agency, we had the cartoon versions of Rosetta and Philae, and I tell you, I was practically crying when Philae just was not doing well. And also, we have the happy accidents of wonderful things like the Martian movie, which makes everybody think about Mars. So we've got a lot of examples already of how powerful this can be. And our organization very much is focusing on what are the benefits of engaging the public and using science and engineering integrated with the arts as our approach. And when I use the term arts, I mean all forms of creative communication: music, film, literature, visual art. All of those things are what I'm talking about when I use the catch-all term arts. And it's our belief that if you allow for this integration in what we're doing, you will get better engagement, more interest in getting educated and learning more, if that's one of your important goals. You're also possibly going to generate a discussion, a global discussion. So we'll be sharing what we think is important with the public, but they can potentially relay their ideas back into our community, and we can cross the different boundaries between different groups. So we are the scientists and the engineers with a couple of artists, but in general we're mostly the scientists and the engineers. Maybe there are some good ideas that can come from other realms and other communities. So we can cross some boundaries if we really get a good engagement and a dialogue going. And it's my belief that we might even get a couple of ideas that we can use. So it might even promote innovation. And I am also known as the teaming queen because I am a big proponent of collaboration. And I hear a lot of that here at this session as well. So let's collaborate where we can. One of the ways that we promote these ideals is that we have a program that we've been running for a couple of years called the Humans in Space Art Program. And it has a really simple premise. That is that we invite participants to creatively communicate about the future of space, and then we use the resulting artwork that they create in as many displays and performances so that their artwork then engages all the listeners and viewers. Very simple idea. And we have 3 projects. One, this is the art, and here is the public display. And our largest project is a youth art competition that targets individuals ages 10 to 18, and all of our activities so far have been global. And what we do is, as I said, we pose a question to the students, and we ask them to create a symphony for us, or write a poem, or paint us a picture, or a short story, or a short film. We've had some success to date. We have actually had thousands of artists contribute artwork to our program, and we have used hundreds of judges. We've engaged them to evaluate the artwork. We've also been able to use that artwork in 100 exhibits and performances, so that we've had hundreds of thousands of viewers and listeners engaged with the artwork and the topic of the artwork, which is always about space. So our showcases of the artwork are basically online performances as well as local performances worldwide, and we've had the opportunity to use the artwork that we've gotten through these global contests also in performances in space. So we have had our artwork on the ISS, and we've also bounced it off the moon. We've also been fortunate enough to have some of the artists engaged in this program come to venues to meet the scientists, the astronauts, the engineers, the managers who are promoting the future of space and planning the future of space, so that there is this dialogue. They get to relay their ideas. They get to hear directly from the people who are actively doing space right now. And they are the next generation that is going to carry out all of the things that we are planning now. So it's wonderful to have them in the mix. And perhaps equally importantly, they meet each other. And they come from 52 different countries. And they are forging the boundaries of collaboration for the future. And they're on Facebook and all of that afterwards. So I just want to give you a little bit of a flavor for what it can be like to have these multimedia live performances using the artwork collected from thousands of young people. Okay, how are we going to make this work?
Should be.
Okay, so it's
because we're
still in there. Are you off? Oh, yes.
So try C.
Wait. First of all, I want to. Oh no, it's actually stuck on the. Here, let's stop it. One moment, please. These are actually embedded in the video just to, let you know that I did actually put these in the video, but they play in this, you know how they hesitate? I hate that. So this music you're hearing is actually a symphony created by a 16-year-old boy. of that artwork was created by young people.
Okay, good.
Thank you. So now I'm not quite sure how to proceed to the next slide. There we go. But the work that we do is not limited to engaging children. We have discovered that our process also works for engaging adults. And so we piloted this work with the college-age and early career young adults and professionals. And we created something called the Humans in Space Art Challenge, and we specifically had a video contest, and it was a global contest, and got some really wonderful artwork as a result. And it was very effective. And there is one video that I would like to show you, depending on how much, where are we on time? Okay, yes, we're on time. So, but again, we have to, should I escape? Okay. We need to get out. Okay. So this is a 3 to 4 minute video by a bunch of Georgia Tech students.
Space, imagination. We want to go. We want to see what's out there. We wouldn't be so infatuated, spend so much time on it if we really weren't curious about what's out there.
I'm personally more renewable energy. I'm really passionate about renewable energy.
Supercapacitors, that's replacing these bulky batteries that are very valuable to the environment, that aren't recyclable.
More sustainable, better resource gathering, better implementation of the resources that we have. I think we need to improve the quality of life for people.
In my country, there are a lot of air pollution. Aerosol chemistry can help us deal with the pollution in the air.
And eventually we'll be able to grow crops in space and we won't have to worry about, the CO2 level here on Earth.
Designing sustainable composting toilets and designing solar powered carts. Science and economics constantly coming up with medicine, new machines, new devices.
Artificial muscle systems that NASA is developing, and how that is being used to improve artificial limbs.
Holographic videos and smart laws.
More flying cars.
Yeah.
Just kind of fuels the imagination.
Spaceships everywhere. Society in space.
Eventually, we're going to become too big for this planet. We're going to have to switch to other planets, and it's going to be science and technology against us.
I'm interested in one day going to Mars.
I want to reach Mars in my lifetime. That would be awesome.
I'd love to start my retirement on Mars.
And I think space is humanity's next global frontier.
I really hope that we can pull that together in the next couple of years because, it's going to take a lot of people and a lot of minds together and a lot of hands to be able to go out and do these things. It also gives us a goal to kind of unify towards.
I think it's teaching us to work together rather well.
Knock down barriers between countries and people. From Puerto Rico.
I'm here.
I'm from Denmark.
I'm from Thailand.
We need everybody to work together, having a goal in mind for something that really captivates the imagination. It's a new unifying thing.
So tell us, what's your vision?
And actually, these students followed up the creation of their work with a social media campaign called #WeNeedSpace. So it was really wonderful. And incidentally, that was not the top winner of the contest, but it does actually talk specifically about Mars. So I thought it was the most appropriate. We also have the ability to, we have worked with professional artists to also create artwork about the future of space. And this is a really wonderful opportunity. This is our Celebrity Artist Fed Engagement, or CAFE. I'm a big fan of coffee and what happens in coffee shops and discussions, so it seemed like a good acronym. And we piloted working with professional artists by working with an artist from Japan called Sputniko. She's a video pop music artist, and her goal was to send the message that young women need to put their unique footprint on the lunar soil And I would argue that it's time to send a call to young women to put their unique footprint on Mars. So that's a good segue to what are we here to talk about right now? I would like to make a recommendation that we collaborate and create a series of potentially annual coordinated global contests and artwork tours that focus on key topics about humans going to Mars, Mars exploration and Mars development. I think they should be international. I think it's a marvelous opportunity for us to continue very specific and broad outreach to the public. It will allow us to relay our ideas and gain support. It will also give us a mechanism to get ideas from other communities as well. We can foster collaboration, and maybe we can even learn a couple of things in the process as well. We can have a lot of targets, and I'm pleased to say that starting next month, we will have what I hope will be the first in these series of activities that will recur. And this is just a one-time project at the moment, but if we collaborate, perhaps we can have things that recur frequently. This will be a contest specifically targeting high school students, college and early career, and it's for visual art and also for film, and it's about Mars. But this is just the beginning. We have a lot to talk about when we talk about going to Mars. And we have other age groups and other types of demographics to reach. And we have the potential for getting multimedia, because not everyone is touched by exactly the same format of communication. Sometimes people love a picture. I'm into music. Other people need to see it written down. We need to use every mechanism we can. So along those lines, I'd like to use some of our visual art to demonstrate a couple of the topics, just a couple of the topics that we could be talking to the public about and engaging them in the conversation. We could talk about our steps and our destinations. How are we going to get to Mars? We could also be talking about what is the grand plan. You know, once we put our first footprint on Mars, where are we headed from there? Our 10, 50, 200-year plan. We can talk about our search for life, and also, naturally, through the artwork, the young people in particular frequently talk about the need to potentially save humanity by exploring and settling further on the Earth. There's a large, ripe dialogue to be had there. We can also talk about collaboration. Are we going to do this together? Are we going to do it as a competition? What flag are we going to plant when we get there? Will it be a symbol of humanity, or are we going to just have a bazillion flags from different countries planted on the soil? We can talk about the interplay between our robotic exploration and our in-person direct human exploration. We can talk about the advances in industry and science that will result, and what kind of industry and science we're going to do while we're there. We can talk about our habitats and our colonies. And gasp, we can talk about whether we really want to retire and spend our vacation on Mars. And we can also talk about how Mars is just another step in human exploration of beyond in the solar system, and even beyond our current solar system. How is Mars enabling us to go even further? So I hope that through this talk and some of the other talks earlier in the session that we have actually convinced you of the great benefit that we can get by doing a better job of engaging the public in our journey to Mars, our mission to Mars, and what we want to get out of Mars. And by offering activities that integrate science and engineering with the arts, such as contests and tours, as I was recommending, we have a large opportunity to really spark interest and support, possibly even collaboration and innovation. And then I would argue that when we have all of these mechanisms in place, the next time somebody asks you, what's your horizon? You can proudly say, our horizon is Mars, And then you can invite the person asking you to learn more and get personally engaged in the dialogue of how and why we're going to Mars. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you. So are there any questions, please?
Could we, for example, within the society have a competition, call it Mars Art, for lack of a better term, temporarily, which goes from now until, say, May of 2017, and then during the next Mars Society conference, we celebrate those artworks as, you know, on display as part of building a culture of art and community and contribution as the life of Mars?
I think that that would be a wonderful way to have this stable and recurring dialogue with the public. And I think it's very important. I think it's one of the things that makes our program unique is we don't just get the artwork, we use the artwork to expand the dialogue. And so using, having an important topic associated with the Mars Society conference, asking the world for their contribution, getting a portfolio of art, and then showcasing the art around the time of the Mars Society, hopefully in public venues, not just back to ourselves, but showing that artwork back to ourselves is also important. I've gotten a lot of feedback that when we do that, even our own science and engineering community is reinvigorated. But I really strongly recommend that we make sure that there's a public visibility for this artwork, and maybe in more than one location. But we can keep it on this schedule with the Mars Society. I think that's a really good idea. It keeps us focused and targeted. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for being here. It was great to hear from Ellen and Nikki earlier about just a similar idea of engagement. I'm in the television business, and what I wonder about is how, what connections you're finding that people make first emotionally that get them interested. Lay people, probably a lot like me, and then to sort of further that, what about commercial funding or patronage for art projects and other? How are you going to get that money?
So I think that the affect that you get by using art as your mechanism for dialogue is incredibly important. And I continue to curate the database because everything we do is electronic, so everything I have is in electronic format. So I now have at my fingertips 3,400 artworks that when people come to me and they say, have you got any video about the moon? We want to put on an event, we want to engage people more deeply, more emotionally, thinking a little bit more about the big picture and the why. I think that the art is extremely powerful in relaying the why. It's the motivator. You can present your dull white papers after you've got them really hooked. The first thing is to make them care and want to learn. And so the art is spectacular that way. Your $1 million question about funding, working on it. Don't have the answers yet. But my hope is that if we can show that this can be done stably and in a way that has a lot of value to the people who do put support into this, then we're going to be able to keep this funded on a regular level. So I actually am working very hard on the strategic planning for what we do just for that reason. This has been a fairly project-based, as they were discussing earlier, as you get the money, you can actually execute it. And what I find is that I start to build a following, and then they want to know when's the next contest. And I can't answer that question. Yes, thank you.
I think that my organization would like to help in this particular area. We're interested in the storytelling and the music and sound effects behind that story. just like when we did War of the Worlds.
Yes.
You know, it was radio, it was exciting, it was about space. We're interested in setting aside some funds for that kind of collaboration. And we don't want to just tie it to kids. We would like adults to be able to say, hey, I'm a story writer.
Right.
I'll write this little piece, or I might write this little musical composition. And then we're hoping that at a yearly event like this, we could use the magic of television to have these these groups perform.
I would also argue that we should not neglect the power of engaging the professional artists in this project as well. I think we should hit all of our targets and use all of our resources because they bring different things to the table. And you reminded me of something I didn't have a chance to say, which is that this is a very flexible approach, and we've been asked to create different variations that even include coming up with a strategy to have contests for payloads that can go up in various vehicles, which are sort of a blend of science and art. So whether it's an art that fits into engineering parameters or it's an engineering project with aesthetic value and also an art-based communication program associated with it to relay the ideas. So there's a real potential to do a lot of different things. So I think the more partners, the better. So thank you.
Just have one more question.
Yes, first of all, thank you for all the wonderful work you're doing. I think it's fantastic and very inspirational to the young and very needed. My question is, do you detect any differences in enthusiasm and inspiration levels between the very young, like grade school kids, to the high school students, to college, and then maybe professionals? Any differences in how they get inspired and their enthusiasm to space exploration? And the second part of my question is, have you ever considered maybe going farther and maybe engaging some retired organizations to, as the population bubble moves out into the outer years, that they may be able to contribute something too?
So let me start with the latter one. I think that's a brilliant suggestion. I really feel like there's a role for everybody in the future of space and in our exploration of Mars in particular, since that's more near term than out of our solar system. And, you know, as for detecting differences in enthusiasm, I'm usually pretty cautious when we march out and try to tap a new demographic. We sort of consider it like a pilot study, and so tapping into the college students and the early career professionals, we did kind of as a, first as a pilot study, then as a small experiment to see just, as you were saying, is there interest? And as we all know, through different phases in our lives, there's different competing events. So I think the biggest problem with that demographic is being able to have the time, outside of their jobs and their families and all of that, to create artwork. So I think we get smaller numbers, but it's also higher quality and more likely to engage a broader community. So one of the things that is kind of an interesting conundrum is when we invite the public to create artwork, the artwork has to be at least sophisticated enough to communicate. So the very, very young children, you will occasionally get an amazing piece from a 6-year-old, but a lot of those pieces are things that really only grandma appreciates. So because we use the artwork, it has to be able to communicate. It can't be too obscure, and it can't be too rudimentary, because it has to talk to the broader public. So that's kind of what we're finding, and we're trying to find that right blend and that right mix of engaging the artists and also being able to use what they create. So, thank you.